Good morning, students. So today we are going to discuss the topic of audience. This goes out to both the 7th and 8th graders because I have found that across all the writing assignments and some of the work that you've been doing recently, both 7th and 8th graders are struggling with this concept of audience. And it's a very important concept in writing because it allows you to focus your writing to one particular point. We have discussed audience before at length. Actually, I have an entire video on audience, but I want to discuss it again in a new light, and hopefully it'll help you a little bit. On the recent 8th grade blog assignments, the number one thing that I keep saying to students as I get their blogs in is, who is this for? Who is this for? Who is this for? And today, I want to address two things about audience. I want you to understand what audience is from a technical standpoint, but more importantly, I want you to understand why audience matters outside of school. In science class, you sometimes learn stuff about, chemicals and whatever, and you can't immediately go home and do something with that information. But with this one, you can. This has real world applicable lessons that you need to learn. You need to understand the concept of audience if you want to be an adult in civilized society one day. So that's what we're hopefully going to look at today. We're going to look at audience from a technical standpoint for school, and we're also going to look at how audience matters. So first, what is audience and why does it matter? Well, briefly, audience is the intended audience for any work of literature. Or to put it more simply, who is the writing for? It's the target of your writing, okay? So the point here is that audience changes the way that you write depending on who you're writing for. For instance, if I want to write a book, if I want to write an entertaining novel, I would be writing very differently for teenagers than I would for adults. If I wanted to write a fictional novel for adults, the content in that story could be darker. The language could be more mature, both in the sense that the words could be more difficult, but also the maturity of the content, meaning that I might have some swear words in there. I might have some more realistic depictions of things. Whereas in a children's book, we gloss over some of the nastier parts of life and instead, present a slightly nicer worldview in order to make it more palatable to kids. So that's what I mean by audience. You're going to write differently for different people. But this doesn't just have to be writing. Everything that you interact with that's literature has a target audience. So we're actually going to look at audience today in the light of film. Okay, but before we get into that, how does audience matter for you personally? Let me share something with you that I have learned as a result of my teaching. When I started teaching audience, all the way up till right now, I kept trying to do the same thing. And that lesson that I kept trying to do is that I would present you with a situation like there was a food fight in the cafeteria at lunch. Okay. And then I would say, hey, you have to tell that story about the food fight in the cafeteria to multiple different people in your life. You have to tell your friend, you have to tell your sibling, you have to tell a police officer, and you have to tell your parents, and you have to tell your administrators, right? So I gave a whole bunch of different people that you could tell that story to. And what I thought is that you would take the skills that you already have on, how to change your story for who you're talking to, and you would apply that to the lesson. But you didn't. This lesson keeps failing for me over and over again. And I think the reason why is because you don't have that real world skill yet. Some of you do. But the vast majority of you just wrote down the same thing for all of those people, telling me that you wouldn't change your story. If you did throw something at somebody at the lunchroom, you would tell your friend and you'd tell your parents and you'd tell the administrators all the same way. Now, either you're being really lazy and you're just not answering the question truthfully, or you have no sense of audience in real life whatsoever. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. If you treat your parents the same way that you treat your friends and you teach your and you treat your bosses the same way that you treat, your coworkers or your family members, you're going to have a really hard time of it, because all those people have to be treated in different ways. They have to be treated in different ways. It's not optional. You don't get to go through life just treating people however you want. And audience is an enormous part of knowing that. You need to tailor your speech and your behavior to whom you are around. Okay, let me give you an example. This is a real answer from a student on one of these assignments that I had in the past. On the line, for each of these members of the audience, he wrote the same thing. Okay, and he wrote, "I yeeted the pizza at her head like a frisbee." Look, I'm not saying it's not funny. I'm just saying that you can't say that to the administrator, because as soon as you say that, guess what? Boom, ISS, done, right? You have to tailor your words. No, I'm not saying that, you should lie to people, but I am saying that you can't brag about throwing a pizza to your teacher, but you could totally brag to your friends. They wouldn't care. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, dude, did you hit Stacy in the head with a pepperoni pizza? That's hilarious," right? Meanwhile, Stacy's over there crying because she got pepperoni sauce in her eye, right? You would not be able to tell that to the administrator without getting in trouble, right? You might say something else. You might be like, "Oh, I panicked and I threw a piece of pizza into the air," or whatever. Technically true, but it might not get you in as much trouble. That's what I'm talking about. You guys do that. I know you do. I know you have these skills, but it seems to me like you're not registering them on a personal level. Okay, so you need to do this. I have told this story before, maybe not to all of you, but I have told this story before, so I'm going to repeat it again. I saw a real world example of not knowing your audience happen. Okay, this is a 100% true story. I worked for a sales department before I became a teacher, and we were flown up to this place in New York. And they gave us food, and they had this great big meeting for us, and it was awesome. And during the meeting afterwards, during a training session, this guy, while talking to the bosses, I guess he was just so relaxed from having the meeting and having the food and whatnot, that in his conversation with all the people in the room, he asked some question and he dropped the F-bomb in the middle of his sentence. And it was so shocking, just so different to hear that in a professional work setting. Everybody just kind of looked at each other like, did he really just say that? And the COO of the company grabbed him, pulled him outside, and fired him on the spot, because he didn't know how to tailor his speech. If he accidentally dropped an F-bomb in a staff meeting with all of the important officers of the company, he would totally do that with a customer, right? It showed us immediately that he had no filter and no way to control what he was saying based on his audience. That's awful. That's terrible. That's an adult human being who can't control their own vocabulary, right? And I see a lot of you guys heading down that same path, where your writing comes to me and it's just an endless rant about nothing, right? There's no sense of audience. There's no sense of purpose. There's no target for anything you're talking about. And then when I do try to put it in a real world circumstance, and I do say, "Hey, how would you talk to your parents versus how you talk to your friends?" And you're just like, "I talk to them the same way." That's not good. That's not okay, right? One of you guys is going to end up in the same situation where you just end up with this potty mouth at the worst possible time, and it wrecks you. And I'm trying to save you from that, okay? Learning audience is no joke, all right? This isn't some thing about metaphor and blue curtains and whatnot. No, this is a very real skill that you need to take out of this classroom if you want to be a functioning, healthy adult human being. Okay, this isn't hard. This is bare minimum stuff. Okay, this is bare minimum stuff, guys, in order to achieve any kind of I don't know, occupation. You need to know to whom you are speaking and tailor your speech to them. Not optional. So seriously listen to this lesson and genuinely try it. okay? Because if you have a hard time pinning down who you're supposed to be talking to and how you're supposed to be talking to them, it will follow you, okay? So, real life lesson put aside now. We're going to take these skills and we're going to try to use them and practice them together. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so here we have our first audience practice activity. We're going to look at audience through the lens of TV because everybody has experienced television and everybody kind of has a general idea of how audience in TV works, right? Parents watch one TV channel, kids watch a different TV channel, right? Maybe YouTube channels is better for these days, but I think you get the idea. Our goal here is to match the TV show with the intended viewer. Now, does that mean that these shows are only watchable by, these people? No, of course not, right? Anybody can watch any show for any reason, but who are they targeting with the TV show? Here are the shows on the left: My Little Pony, Marvel's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, a PBS documentary on nature, or a news report of local traffic. So these are all things that are on TV. And our audiences: a science classroom, 5 to 10-year-old girls, parents getting ready for work, or nerdy teens and adults. Who is the intended audience of each of these? Take a couple minutes and try to match them up. Let's take a stab at solving this. So the first one here, My Little Pony. Now, this is a funny show because this does actually have quite a wide audience. Some people found this show to be very enjoyable, despite the fact that it was originally targeted for 5 to 10-year-old girls. So we will highlight this and highlight this. All right, so this is a match for us. Okay, My Little Pony is intended to be matched with young girls. Marvel's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. All right. Could you watch this in a classroom? Yeah, it would be fun, but it probably wouldn't be the best. Parents getting ready for work probably doesn't make sense. So really, nerdy teens and adults, right? This is a show not for like little kids, but kids that are a little older and can understand what's going on and understand the intensity of the story and, not get frightened. So Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse there. Oops. Matches with our teens and adults. A PBS documentary on nature. Okay, so obviously nature documentary, science classroom. Okay, hopefully you got that. And last but not least, a news report of local traffic would be our parents. Okay, so there we go. All right, there's our intended audience. Okay, so we are going to try this one more time, but we're going to change it from television to real world scenarios. Boom, costume change. Okay, new activity. We are going to look at tone and audience together. If you're not familiar with tone, okay, just quick reminder, tone is the attitude of the writer towards their subject or what they're writing about or what they're saying. Okay, so it's essentially the attitude that you get from the words. So we are going to match these statements in order to see which tone best matches the audience. Okay, so in this one it says, your parent asks you to finish your chores. Your options are sure, whatever, okay, mom, hold up, I'm busy, or yeah, geez. Okay, so which one of these responses best matches your audience. Not which one would you personally be most likely to say, but which one should you say based on your audience. And then this one, you are talking to a friend and you want to start a conversation to tell them that their boyfriend, Dave, is not good for them. Listen, Sally, Dave's kind of a jerk. Dave is bad for you and you need to see that. I think you should think about how Dave is treating you. Or, hey, Sally, can we talk about how you're doing? So these are 4 options for each of these. Take a few seconds and pick the one that you think is best. Okay, so this first one, your parent asks you to finish your chores. Sure, whatever. Probably not good attitude. Okay. Okay, mom. That's promising. Hold up, I'm busy. And yeah, geez. I'm gonna tell you right now, using an expletive, right? Not a good idea. Hold up, I'm busy. Certainly don't tell your parent that they're busy when you ask them to do, or when they ask you to do something. And whatever definitely has a tone that you wouldn't want to have come across to your parents. The correct answer would be, okay, mom, right? I will do that right away. Even if you need to stop for a couple minutes and do something else, just tell them, yes, you'll do it, right? Next one, you are talking to a friend and you want to start a conversation to tell them that their boyfriend, Dave, is not good for them. So we have, listen, Sally, Dave is kind of a jerk. I don't think that's a really good way to start off, because if you're just going to start off attacking their boyfriend, they're not going to want to listen to you. Next one, Dave is bad for you and you need to see that. This one is dangerous because it sounds like you're accusing Sally of not, it sounds like you're accusing Sally of being sort of party to this problem, right? That you need to see that, right? That tone of accusing her, she's not going to want to listen if you attack her. I think you should think about how Dave is treating you. This one's close. This is a good start, but if you're talking again about, Dave is treating you, it's going to sound maybe like you're coming at him a little too fast. Now, this last one, hey, Sally, can we talk about how you're doing? Now we're at a good tone because now you're focusing on Sally and attending to her needs. And now she'll think about her actual state. And then you can lead into and talk about how her relationship is hurting her. Okay, so don't make it about him, make it about her. All right, that's thinking about your audience. All right, so these are 2 real world examples of how you could use your audience to change your speech, right? To focus on what you're doing. Both of these topics that we just talked about, right? Something as simple as film or as complex as interpersonal relationships can all be defined and modified through understanding your audience. And this is an incredibly important real world skill. I cannot overstate how important it is that you learn to speak and write appropriately to the right people. All right, this is a lesson that does not stop here. This is a lesson you're going to have to take with you and learn every day. I know this is a long one and a little bit of a tough one for you, but hopefully this helps. Hopefully seeing these examples in a new light gives you a better understanding of audience. And please, when you guys write for me in the future, when you write your essays, you need to write down who your audience is, and you need to focus your writing towards them. Otherwise, you're just kind of ranting at nothing. Okay, you need to know to whom you're speaking, because how are they going to listen to you if you're not talking to them? All right. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.